Good morning, chaps. Morning, Ted. So, this gorgeous vehicle here deserves to be RC, deserves to have some features. We talked before how we love the proportions. The proportions are ideal for a figure. It's not too big, it's not too small. The play value, it's great stuff. So, using the same tracks as we use for a Mauler, the 1/16th scale Panzer III or Panzer IV, I forgot what it was. The idea was to integrate that into the Wolverine chassis or Lynx or whatever. If we take our Mauler developed suspension wheels, the issue is it sticks out a lot because the distance needed for the arms. So trying to standardize parts, I came up with a smaller system. So I still use the same spindles, but I had to try to make it more compact. And that is because, as you see, if we use the tracks, if we use these tracks here, we can fit them here nicely with, of course, a little clearance against the hull. Now, this pushes it out, so it doesn't work. Here, I'm gonna put them here so we can illustrate it. See, so it's getting close to 1/4 of an inch outboard. And this system here, if I grab a shorter track here, so it's a smaller wheel, and it is same thing. It's a swing arm and a mounting plate. And the reason why I'm having this extruding is, one, I'm keeping the same spindle, but also if the portion holding the wheel is smaller, it's going to wobble more. So the wider the first surface, the less wobble the wheel will have. So it's kind of for durability. It looks a little ugly because it sticks out, but it has function behind it, and it's because I don't want to make whole new parts. So I want to keep the existing spindles that I have been using so far. So these guys would be bolted on the side here. Oh, okay. five stations, and that would keep the track as close as possible to stay within the width of the Wolverine. So that's the plan. Now, of course, those had to be cut off, and then I had to find a way to put motorization here. So either we use an existing gearbox, a Tamiya one or whatnot, and as we know, we can easily fit our electronics in there. There's plenty of room. Obviously, we lose this snap here. What's sad about the design is they stepped it here, and if they had followed the line, we could have placed the drive sprocket there, and it's not the case. So I, after a lot of work, I had to cut all these guys. I came up with this. So as you see here, I cut those. Have to be filled with styrene. It's a lot of work, right? Because there's going to be a lot of things to fix. And then I ended up cutting the hull there because the rear is just, I wanted to preserve the rear plate with the tow hook and the details. But as you see, it's poorly designed to integrate real life tank components. Is typically there's a bulge there for the gearbox. So here is a 3D printed gearbox housing. So I'm using those metal gearboxes. It's not really about the metal gears. What I like is they have an output shaft with threads, so I can screw in the drive sprocket. If I have one here, I don't. But okay. So here's the assembly. So there's a cover, central section, mirror cover. The drive sprocket is screwed on, held by the screw, so it's easy to remove. Just remove the screw and pull it out. I added some tank reel-like towing eyes for cables. I added a tow hitch, and there's going to be a mech to lock it that I'm still developing. So here's the construction, and this goes and fits the rear like this. And then let's see, this guy here. Okay, so there you go. So here is our RC Wolverine chassis. It implies cutting, filling all these holes. It implies making a clean cut there, and then the assembly would fit there. So that's going to be on Thingiverse. So if people want to do this, go for it. Now, that's the easy part. Now, the difficult part now is we have to make these guys, left station and right stations. And they have to be bolted on the side of the hull. And that has issues because obviously we cannot drill through a gearbox, and if we use short screw, it's not as strong. So it'd be easier to glue, but I don't like to do this, but it becomes a pain. So let me show you the geometry of these wheels here. It's like this. Okay, so we have to clear this sprocket. But to be honest, I'm gonna have to, oh yeah, so it's like this. There's actually a missing plate. It's supposed to protrude back like this, and it's gonna be a support plate here like this. And that's the suspension, right? So we have almost a whole wheel of travel, 5 wheels. And yeah, this is a first draft. I might go back to a bigger diameter, self-clearing design. That's a lot of work because there's holes to be filled here. I'm tempted to print a whole plate across that would have the holes already, because when you mount those things by hand, it's like the Warthog. I'm gonna drill a lot of holes, things don't match, it's uneven. Well, printing a whole plate and having the holes designed in CAD already there, just put the stations and done. However, if I mount the plate here, it's gonna increase the width and it's gonna be issues. Anyway, you notice the swing arms are curved. The idea is to glide over obstacles because they do protrude a bit. Let's see, so it's like this. And when the suspension bottoms out, see, so it's all clear. No, it clears the track. So, conclusion on this is I could keep going, but for the amount of work, I really love the Wolverine proportions, but it's an awkward design with a lot of wasted space, weird choices. So if it's for a purist, yeah, I would say this is to go ahead for the RC Wolverine. Maybe cut this and integrate the stock rear plate to be more traditional. Or I'm actually leaning toward, let's make it from scratch, because the amount of cutting, filling, gluing, it gets tiring. So I say, let's go from scratch. So what I mean by this is to make a tub into sections that I would print just like I did here. There would be sections, keep going. And the advantage is I could have just location holes that are ready to just put screws and assemble. Now here's the concept. Now, this is part 2 of the video now. The concept is this. Let's imagine, I'm going to put these guys here. We got our guy for scale. And let's see, we need to have the right tracks. So I am envisioning a vehicle like a BMP-1 or BMP-3, an infantry carrier with a small turret. So here I'm going to mount the tracks. I'll put some guys here. Let's see, I'm doing this live with no rehearsal as usual. Okay, so here's our vehicle. And okay. Imagine that the driver is here. Okay, and we have a front plate like this, a little taller. So either we make the whole hull taller and the guys inside, or we make it lower, just like the Wolverine, the guys always has the upper chest sticking out. Now, imagine that we have a round turret here. I don't have anything to mark it, but we would have sponsons. Okay, so we would have, I'm poorly prepared here. Okay, so we would have sponsons here over the tracks, and we have infantry guys in the back. So we would have, you know, guys here. So we have 4 guys in the back, so there'd be a platform. And in this area here, there would be a round turret, small turret with a small cannon, and 1 trooper would be standing out here. Okay, let's see if I have anything to mock this up. Okay, I'm gonna mock it with tracks then. So So this is the turret here, right? So we have a conical turret right here that houses just one guy, maybe two, small cannon like this long. Got a guy in the front, and we got troopers in the back. And they're always open, so I think that makes a light vehicle as fun. Now the cherry on top would be to put an amphibious drive, use the volume of the spoonsoons here to house air so that you can float, keep it light, and oh, that would be awesome. Make a jet, and it's going to be twin jet. It'd be fun. Now let's say that the same chassis, instead of mounting the small turret and the cargo, we have a single large turret. So then it becomes like a T55 or T63. Now for pragmatic reasons, I tried to see if we put a driver in the front and either make it longer, we have to make it taller. It can be done. So let's see if it's like this. And here's the front glacis. Or let's say we do like the Mobat. There is no driver. The driver's in the turret. So at that time we have a very compact, the proportions are very enticing, very appealing. Is we have a tank with a very small engine deck, a simple construction like a t55-t64 in the sense that the hull has just like little flat pontoon when you have like storage flat cases, a wide turret that has overhang on the side, and then we have two soldiers here. And the proportions, my gut feeling tells me this is going to be very nimble, very light. It's kind of nice because you could put it on your train. It's compact. And let's say I could see this as well as real life in a sense for a sports tank for fun, is that you don't drive and shoot. You drive around as the commander, driver, or gunner, just a crew of two. And then they stop and they shoot. So it's not like modern tank shoot on the go, whatnot, because you get disorientated as you rotate the turret. So it's like this could make a very, very compact. Let's see if I can show a side view of this. But it's very, very appealing to me because it has the essence of a low-cost, simple tank, the iconic tank like what the T55, T64 is. Round turret, short engine deck, minimalistic body work of minimal sponsors. So to make this be modular, so let's go into drawings now if I can find very quickly a piece of paper and see how we do this. So front view, side view. So it's like the T55, right? And it's a small deck. Let's see. Do they have a I don't know. It's like that. Okay. So I can see to make this, I might do this in sections because I cannot print large part. So the rear is the gearbox housing. So here's the gearbox, and the shaft goes like so. This goes through like here, drive sprocket here. Then I would make another piece, like L piece. And then same thing for the front and the front glacis. Then we mirror this and we end up with a tub. Once we have our basic tub, the deck would be different. So for example, for the BMP, we go with a taller glacis, taller pontoons. So it'd be in sections, of course. So the rear has the benches for the 4 troopers. The central deck has a opening for a conical small turret. Let's grab a different pen here. And the front deck has the opening for the driver. On the side of him, the electronics and the battery. The guy standing in the turret, or 2, small cannon, maybe coax machine gun. The guys on the side, maybe there's some folding panels that closes it when they're not there as a rest, I don't know. The jets is a bit of work. Where do we put if they're in the pontoon or if they're underneath, whatnot. Now, and then the same tub So the tub has our gearboxes in there, the drive in the rear. So the same tub, if we make the tank version, we have a different, shorter glacis. We have flat pontoon, much flatter, a large opening, an engine deck. So at that time we put, let's say, electronics and battery in the back or the front, I don't know yet. And then we have the large turret. So the large turret is here. I cut up a 124 scale chieftain, and it's this looks very promising. So as far as we make the turret protrude, so we can make funky stuff like the modern T90 tanks. We can have armor sides like pannier, kind of like what the Iraqis did with the Enigma. We start with a round cast turret with our two guys in there. We have a gun in the center and some electronics, and we make it as minimalistic as possible, right? And then on the side we put those armor, either reactive armor or the pannier. But I think for Joe, what I would do is I would make all these hollow. They would be storage cases. So they put the gear on it, it doubles as spaced armor, and it gives a very menacing look. So that would be kind of interesting to have, you know, give it a little more modern look as well. But the round looks good too. So with the same platform, we could have two vehicles, the infantry transport carrier and the regular one. So, and now comes the third variant, which is the nuclear tank, which is the Object 279, I think, which I always thought Cobra should have this. Now, I don't have the model in hand, but essentially it's to go, if we go the Cobra route, the little more futuristic, non-realistic, but kind of like what if, and that would be to make a very organic Gundamish hull. This is front view, side view, and with multiple tracks. So in our case here, we're just going to go with very wide tracks and maybe articulate elevatable suspension, a very wide turret, very round and most like insect-like. And it's like the atomic tank, right? And maybe it's even like an almond. It's like shaped, you know, like a... and it would be floating. So it would be a submarine tank, since you could be fully amphibious, sorry, not submersible tank. So you could dive, it could dive, float, or maybe drive at the bottom. And essentially it's a large turret with tracks. So the hull is to a minimum. Anyway, so those are concepts I've been toying for a while. And for now, the first step is this, and it's like, okay, make the hull from sections. Like this one here is 1, 2, 3, 4 sections, and then small accessories on. So modular, so I put everything with screws, and from experience is when I make smaller parts, there's less chance of warpage, and then I either fuse or screw it together. It'd be nice if I could make larger prints. I'm going to try to see if I can make maybe one section, so it's like a 3-inch by 2-inch block, and then put it together. So it's almost like building submarines. You're building it by sections, because I cannot make it. Another easier way to do this would be with laser cut. If I had access to laser cut, I could take styrene plates, and that would be easy. Just butt join, just like the World War II tanks were done, and then you butt join them. That'd be very easy, and then paint it. I don't have access to that for now, so we have what we have. So here you have it. Thank you for share our thoughts. Yeah, let me know what you think, and up on to the next video.